In this lesson, we will explore how we elect Congress. Congress refers to both the House of Representatives and the Senate. All 435 seats in the House of Representatives are up for election every 2 years, meaning each member of the House of Representatives serves a 2-year term. About 1/3 of the 100 Senate seats come up for re-election every 2 years, and each senator serves a 6-year term. Okay, so let's look at the election processes for Congress. First, we will look at what happens in the lead-up to congressional elections, and then we'll explore how general elections, including both presidential and midterm years, shape congressional results. Let's start with the lead-up to the elections. In this section, we'll explore incumbency advantage and the nomination process. You might remember from our earlier lesson on how we elect a president that incumbents, meaning people already in the elected position, often have an edge. The same is true in congressional races, and it's even more evident in Congress. In the House of Representatives, for example, incumbents win re-election over 90% of the time. This is because they already have name recognition, a voting record to campaign on, and easier access to campaign donations. It is also influenced by gerrymandering, which we discussed in Lesson 2.3. This is the phenomenon where many congressional districts are drawn in ways that favor one party over the other. Okay, let's pause there for a second. You might be realizing already that there are going to be a lot of ideas and concepts you're going to need to remember. That's why I've made the 4-hour exam-ready playbook, a study and review guide that you can complete while watching the video. Grab it through the link in the description and practice what you're learning while watching, all in just 4 hours. With this guide, it's never too late to prepare for the exam. Now, let's get back to the lesson. Okay, let's move on to the nomination process, which is the process where the parties select their candidates to stand in the election. As with presidential nomination, parties can choose to use primaries or caucuses to select their nominees. Let's look at the primaries process for Congress. We already talked about open and closed primaries when learning about presidential elections, so we'll keep this short. In an open primary, any registered voter can choose to vote in either party's primary. They don't have to be a member of the party itself. In a closed primary, only voters who are registered with a political party can vote in that party's primary. One effect of closed primaries is that more extreme candidates are more likely to win because only strong and highly partisan party supporters are voting. In contrast, open primaries can lead to more moderate candidates because independents and swing voters have a say as well. Okay, now let's talk briefly about caucuses. Again, we've already covered this process in our presidential elections lesson, but here's how it applies to Congress. Some states still use caucuses to choose congressional candidates, but they are much less common than primaries. A caucus is a meeting of party members who gather to discuss and vote on who they want to represent their party. It is not a private vote, it's a group decision. Now let's move on to general elections, which are the final stage of the process. General elections decide who actually wins the seat in Congress. These can happen in presidential election years or in midterm years. In presidential election years, which happen every 4 years, the president, all of the House of Representatives, and a third of the Senate are up for election. Midterm years occur 2 years after each presidential election and are called midterms because they occur in the middle of the president's 4-year term. The president is not up for election, but all of the House of Representatives and a third of the Senate are still voted upon. When general elections are held during a presidential year, turnout tends to be higher, and congressional candidates often get a boost, or a hit, based on how popular their party's presidential candidate is. But in midterm elections, the president's party usually loses seats in Congress. This is because voters often use midterms as a way to express their discontent about the president. Since fewer people vote in midterms and those who do tend to be more politically motivated, the results can swing sharply against the party in power. Okay, that brings us to the end of our lesson on congressional elections. On the screen now are the key terms from this lesson. If you're following along with the study guide and free response question mastery playbook, check your answers for this section using the answer key before moving on.